Hey guys, VaulSC here, hope that you're having a good week. So, Corvus Belli has just come out with an update for Infinity the game. As you guys know, they have released the new action pack for Bakunin, which is the Nomad Sectorial, and they put out the lovely package of new miniatures, and as you guys know, they brought up the profiles, the rules, the stats, the stuff for the miniatures to be used in-game. And as they've done that, they've also tweaked and updated a few other little things within Infinity, not just, for the action pack that they're releasing. And that has become a bit of a thing for them in the last couple of, model updates that have come out, where they've released some new profiles for the models. We've noticed that the actual miniatures coming out, some of them are resculpts, and they've not only sort of, added new profiles for the ones that are not resculpts, that are actually new miniatures, that maybe tweaked some of the things that they're resculpting in terms of the rules, the profiles for those miniatures. And then for some reason, because they are, releasing a general update, they're going, well, may as well just go into the rest of Army Builder and fix a couple of other things that we're not releasing new miniatures for at all. We saw that a while back with Morats and things like that, and they'd come in and at random, they're just changing like Penthesilea or Netrods or something like that, even though those miniatures aren't getting resculpted. And that has happened again. We've seen the Nomad action pack for Bakunin come out, and they've gone through and they've added a few new profiles for O12, Starmada. We thought initially it might just be adding the Roadbot because they had a new sculpt, but there's been a couple of other things there as well. And the thing that's got everybody talking, and the reason why I'm doing this video today, and you guys know why you're here, right? You know why you're here. It's for the drama, it's for the salt, it's for the controversy, it's for, the talkback show. They have, for some reason, gone through and tweaked a couple of profiles for Pan-O, and the one that's got everyone talking is the change to Bulleteer Armbots, alright? So that is going to be the focus of the video today. Yes, I'm going to just briefly go over the other profiles for Bakunin and just, very lightly gloss over that sort of stuff, but the main conversation today is going to be about this ridiculous and inexplicable and just insane tweak to a profile that just really didn't need it. So, without further ado, let's just jump into that and really just spell out what has happened, okay? Let us take a look now at Army Builder. So here you've got the Pan-Oceania Army List, and you've got the Bulleteer Armbots. These Bulleteers have been in the game for a really long time. And you'll notice that for the Heavy Shotgun and Spitfire, the profiles are there and the stats are unchanged, but the cost of this Spitfire is now 26 points, and it used to be around about 23. I believe it's gone up 3 points, maybe 4, can't remember, but it has had the points value increased there, which is actually shocking. It's actually very surprising. Okay? So this is a nerf to Bulleteers, and what people are universally saying, like everybody who really understands the game agrees that this change doesn't make sense. Bulleteers weren't too powerful, we weren't seeing them too often. They're available for Pan-Oceania and all the Pan-O sectorials and for Druze, and nobody was going, oh my gosh, what if I run into a Bulleteer, let me plan for that, oh my gosh, I lost this game because the Bulleteer just ran away with it. That wasn't really a thing. We have, on the other hand, been talking about a lot of other things within the game that is kind of hurting the meta and damaging the competitive game that did need to be fixed, and we've seen no changes for any of that stuff. Instead, you've got the Bulleteer just inexplicably going up a few points. So let's just come back to the profile for 1 second. And for people who are less familiar with Infinity the game, let's just break down what this unit is and what it does, okay? You've got a signature sort of Pan-Oceania style remote, and the big thing about it is it's got Mimetism -6, and it's a remote, so it's quite fast. And the good thing about it is that it can sort of push into the midfield, go into the enemy deployment zone, or it's just somewhere in position to get a shot off. And it will generally win the face-to-face rolls because at BS12 with the Spitfire, you've got the weight of active turn shooting 4 dice, and if they're shooting back, they're up against your Mimetism. So it can be very good at sort of just easily winning some clutch face-to-face rolls when your opponent is leaving stuff on ARO duty in partial cover to shoot back at you. Now, it is a unit with some weaknesses as well, okay? So why does this unit not just run away with a lot of games and really is fearsome in the meta? So one reason why is that at the moment, anybody who plays plays Nomads or Corregidor is using 2 Morans. And what these guys are doing is that they have repeaters on them naturally. They don't have to drop the repeaters. So as of the beginning of the game, you've got 2 Morans infiltrating out in the midfield. There is an 8-inch bubble around each of them. So there's effectively a 32-inch line across the battlefield that you can't cross without being hacked. Bulleteer can be hacked. So if you run into that kind of matchup, Jazz or Interventor or whoever they've got is just going to hit you with a Carbonite or a Oblivion. Okay, so that's going to be a real problem for the Bulleteer. Another thing is that there are a lot of things with Mine Layer, especially the Liberto, which is extremely common. Like, that is in so many lists out there, and the Bulleteer has sort of got to skirt around that. You don't really want to move your Bulleteer within range of the Mine or line of sight of the Liberto, because it can just put a template down, and then you're dodging in physical 10, and you lose not only the unit, but the orders as well, right? Now, as you make your way across the battlefield, yes, it can be quite a good unit for shooting a few things that are in partial cover. Sometimes they'll throw a smoke grenade, and you can't really do much more than that. So that's why, you know, at 23 odd points, it's not like a crazy powerful unit. Yes, there are some good applications for it, but you're not seeing like a Bulleteer in every single competitive list. That certainly wasn't the case. The Bulleteer was in a good place because people were sometimes using it, but not always using it, right? So it was a relatively fair unit, and they brought it in to link with some units, I believe, in NCA. We'll have to check on that. Now, I just want to make a brief comparison with a unit that's quite close to this thing, which is the Yujing counterpart, which is the Rushi. As you can see, this unit has not received any changes. It's still at 23 points, 1 SWC, which I believe was roughly where the Bulleteer Spitfire was. And the main thing that's different about this unit is that it has MSV2 instead of Mimetism -6. So this unit is better in some situations, but not others. So if you're crossing the battlefield and you're trying to pick off their Bear Pod or Dog Soldier or something like that, and they're just dropping a smoke grenade, the Rushi is brilliant in that situation. If you're up against Myrmidons who are not throwing Eclipse grenades, they're just throwing regular smoke, and you're just ignoring their Mimetism, this is just great in that matchup, whereas the Bulleteer kind of struggles there. So for some reason they thought that the Bulleteer was worth, you know, nerfing, but the Rushi is just completely fine. So their view of, you know, how these units operate in the meta, whether they're too powerful or not powerful enough, you know, they saw fit to tweak one thing but not the other. A lot of people are coming back to this and saying, hey, what's even more baffling, and this is the part that I agree with the most, is that there are so many other offending things out there in the game at the moment which people, you know, just feel desperately need to be tweaked. You've got Bit and Kiss, which can fire 3 repeaters across the battlefield, 3 pitches, burst 3, and then your Anathematic can just quite easily put Spotlight on the enemy lieutenant or key piece, and you just hit it with a missile. That's a strategy that is very, very easy to do right now. And, you know, Corvus Belli, you know, should be aware of it, but they haven't decided to tweak that. They're just making the Bulleteer 3 more points more expensive, which nerfs not just a unit that is fine. They're sort of nerfing Pan-Oceania in general in the sectorials, and Pan-Oceania aren't seen as a really competitive kind of faction in the meta, and I'm talking about vanilla or the sectorials. Even Druze, I think Druze are probably in a better place than Pan-Oceania factions, but they're not like right at the top and just crushing everybody, and it's certainly not because of the Bulleteer that they're doing well. The reason why Druze are coming back into the meta a bit is because they have access to Fiddler, which is an overpowered unit. Like, that is a unit that could go up 3 points and would be happy. They have access to some really good, you know, pitches. They have access to Diggers now, just things like that. The Trip Hammer. So those are units which need to be addressed, not so much the Bulleteer. So that is the really, really weird thing. And nobody really understands sort of how Corvus Belli have sort of come to this kind of conclusion. And at this point, I just want to offer a little bit of insight about that. I don't have like any like hard evidence or conclusive kind of demonstrable sort of reasoning here. All I've got really is a rumor, and it's up to you guys as to whether you believe this rumor or not. So I have had the opportunity to talk to a few people who work for Corvus Belli behind the scenes, And again, this is hearsay, may not be true. But what I understand is that all the decisions about profiles changes, like the actual rules to the game, all go through one singular individual at that company. And this particular person hasn't played any games of Infinity during N4. So if you have played Infinity competitively or casually, been to tournaments, your experience and your understanding is a little bit more in touch and a little bit more informed than the person who's actually making the decisions about the rules. I also believe and have been told that this person hasn't really even played much Infinity in the previous edition either, which went on for ages. But what happens is that they receive some communication and feedback from a few people who play Infinity within the Spanish community only. So Infinity is now played in heaps of different countries. It's very big in the United States and Britain and Poland and Australia and in New Zealand as well, Germany, France. So with Tabletop Simulator coming big in the pandemic, I mean, I've probably played people from about 20 different countries by now, at least. And, there are a lot of people playing a lot of games, and our understanding of the game is advancing. But the one person, the individual, making the decisions about whether a Bulleteer goes up 3 points or down 3 points or stays the same, this person doesn't actually have the same experience of playing the game and seeing the effectiveness of various units and factions and lists like we do, which is quite shocking. That is a rumor. I wholeheartedly believe it, but, I don't have anything to demonstrate it and prove it. So if you guys think that that's just completely false, and actually what's happening is that Corvus Belli have a team of playtesters, and they're playing, Infinity every day in their lunch breaks and talking about the game, and they're discussing and analyzing it and thinking about what's weak, what's strong, how do we make the game better, looking at competitive data. If you think that's the case, then, God bless you, all the power to you. You're welcome to, believe that. But as I've told you, this is what I think is going on, all right? So, Bulleteer, now 3 points more expensive. A lot of other things in the game untouched. So, Bit and Kiss can still do their thing. Polaris Bearpods, still extremely strong. Volkolak Missile Launcher can still link with Rockets to still be a pure link team, but, Camo Snipers can't for some reason, which is good. You wanted to reduce that, but, you really should be looking at every linkable thing around the board. It's just pretty crazy. You've still got the Liberto, which is just a very ubiquitous, common, undercosted unit in a lot of vanilla lists. Morans, completely meta-defining and make the game a lot less enjoyable. I believe that the Agema missile launcher is a bit too much. It should have limited camouflage instead of hidden deployment. It really deters and punishes a lot of people for playing certain sectorials. If you really love more rats and you're just moving out with your link teams, and you come up against a steel phalanx or a left player, they've got a piece which really, just punishes you for even showing up. You have to really be careful about moving out your link teams at all. It's kind of, it's a thing that one faction has. It's not a ubiquitous thing, but it makes the game a little bit more about matchups, which is not wonderful. I could bang off a big list of things in the game that need to be nerfed or to be buffed, to be honest. We could look through Pan-Oceania, which is full of profiles which, are not great. I mean, let's look at them right now. We come through them, and there's a lot of stuff that's used. There's a lot of stuff that's average, right? But, not a lot there that's extremely, overpowered or massively meta. I mean, you don't see a ton of Aquila Guards, for example. You don't see a ton of Swiss Guards. I still think they're okay, but they're nothing like the Bit and Kisses, the Norkiuses out there, the Polaris Bearpods, the Libertos that other factions have. And this is a kind of a bit of an old school unit that needed a bit of a revamp. Akali's, for example, you've got people like Carlotta Kowalski and the Morat unit, the Raziat, I think it is, that has deployment zone combat jump and or parachutists, and these guys don't have that. They wouldn't be broken if they did have it. They would probably still be underpowered if they had that. They could use a bit of a tweak there. I mean, you can come through down here. Who else have we got? Gabriel DeFerson. He's kind of a sitting duck, really, when it comes to hacking. I feel like you could probably give him a 10 bot or something. There's a lot of Stephen Rao. I don't think I've ever even seen him on the tabletop in my life, and I've played hundreds of games of Infinity. So there's a few options there. I mean, you can go through and you can make a bunch of units better. Echo Bravo, I just don't really even see that at all. Patsy Garnett, no, she's okay. I mean, probably more of a sectorial sort of choice. Vargas, again, not wonderful. Infameras, just a bit expensive. Knight of Justice, it's a bit of a meme when you compare this guy to, for example, the Asawira from Hakislam. They're very similar units in terms of stats, but this guy's just like 1 billion times more expensive. So if you're looking through, you know, a faction like Pan-Oceania and going, okay, well, let's just randomly change the points cost of a profile, there are other ones that you could have picked. But again, this decision, I believe, is being made by somebody who just doesn't really have that visibility of sort of what's happening in games and the meta and people's list building experience. That's just how it goes. So it's just shocking. It's crazy. But that's the community in the game and the hobby that we have bought into, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so just before we wrap this video up, I'm just going to briefly brush over stuff. I mean, the Bakunin stuff has been relatively okay. As always, Corvus Belli do a few miniatures, few profiles which seem like above average and below average with these new releases. Mother Agatha is just a really rubbish unit because you're paying 38, 39 points for a unit that has a single wound only. So as soon as it takes a hit, you're going to lose all those points there. Even though it's got NWI, it's got shock, it's just too many points to pay for like something like this. I just think that, yeah, it should be a few points less expensive, just sort of what you're getting here. Robin Hook, I thought it was reasonably average. Again, I can't really comment too hard on these ones because I haven't really looked very carefully or play tested these models. I mean, the video here is more about the Bulleteer, which I have seen in action 1,000,000 times. But Robin Hook, I mean, looks kind of fun. I like the miniature for it. And I kind of like how the tactical bow specifically is +3 BS because usually people use the other guns, like the tactical bow, the range is a bit too low. And you've got heavy pistol +1 burst, so it's like, well, do you fire 3 shots with a heavy pistol or fire with a tactical bow? I think it's kind of cool how it's got the extra BS because then when you're AROing, you can go, all right, well, there's a clear advantage to actually using that sometimes. So that's kind of cool. We have the Demonist Observant. There's been a real fuss about this on the forums. People are actually kind of angry that Nomads are getting yet another thing which messes with order count. So you've got a Lieutenant +1 order, and you can combine that with NCO to give Nomads another 2 orders. I don't think it's that bad because this unit overall is just quite expensive, and in a vanilla Nomads list, it's not going to replace anything that's just super optimized. It's just better to go for the 2 typical moderators that are super cheap. One can be your Lieutenant, and then just go and just use all of the extremely undercosted profiles that vanilla faction has. So, yeah, it looks cool with the stats and everything, but if it's just going to be sitting at the back of your army, you don't really want to be paying 36 points for it. You already get counterintelligence with your Puppet Master, so it's just not really worth it. It defends well as a Lieutenant, but when your opponent knows that it is the Lieutenant, it's just a bit too easy to pick off. The good thing about the moderators is that you've got 2 of them, and your opponent is a 50-50 coin flip to hit it with Bit and Kiss, Pitches, Anathematic, Missile, Bot Guided Missile. Whereas with this guy, you know, it's just going to go down to the missile launcher really easily. Even with the ECM Hacker, I think. Even with that there. Stigmata, this is their tag, which came out. I think it's kind of nifty. The thing I worry about with this tag is that, again, with Pitches being so strong in the meta, somebody could land into Pitcher next to this, and even with the ECM Hacker, somebody just shooting this thing with a Trinity, like order after order after order, will kill it. So, if, for example, it's the Anathematic. Anathematic is 16 +3 and then -3 for the ECM. So with Trinity on 16s on 4 dice, and this guy is just hacking back at either whip 10 through the repeater or resetting on 13, and then it's effectively BTS 9 if we factor in the ECM against the Trinity. I mean, you could just spend half a turn or most of the turn just killing it with that strategy, and then it goes down. So there is that worry. But yeah, if you do get a really good active turn out of it, I kind of like it. I mean, the heavy rocket launcher isn't really good for winning face-to-face rolls. Generally, you want to burst 4 or 5 weapon on your tag. So yeah, I just don't think that this is like a crazy good tag. It's, you know, it's interesting. I'll give it that, and I like the miniature for it. These guys I just haven't really had a great look at. I mean, you're seeing 1 wound models that are in the 20s. So, I mean, to really get mileage out of them, they're going to have to be doing a lot. It's just with so many direct template weapons in the game, it's hard to see these guys being great. You know, deployable repeater here is kind of cool, but, you know, you might still want to be taking the Heckler. Yeah, I haven't really done that comparison, but they don't seem like amazing. Cenobites, I think this is probably the best thing to come out for Bakunin. I like this profile here. These guys have been compared to Teutonic Knights from Military Orders because they are similarly, you know, well costed and good at close combat. But the thing is, these guys also have Mimetism -6, which, you know, if you prefer that over the dodging ability from the Teutons, then these guys are better. And to be honest, I probably would prefer that. Dodging's great, but again, Mimetism's Mimetism at the end of the day. It's very valuable ability. You don't get the Panzerfaust though, so there is that. With Kaitox have the amazing ability to you know, be armor 5 and, you know, in the link, and, you know, you've got the huge number of chain rifle and heavy pistol hits. So these guys are similar with the +1 burst here. Heavy pistol +1 burst. So they do a similar kind of thing, but with a Mimetism -6. So it's just a matter of whether you like Mimetism or, you know, the armor or the dodging. These guys look like they're impetuous though, so you probably do want to play them in Bakunin and link them. Or you could sort of just skirmish them up the field with Nomads, but again, Nomads are just so hyper-optimized right now. I'm not even sure if these profiles are better than what you're currently running in Nomads. Penitent Observance, yeah. I don't know. I mean, they don't have anything here which seems completely busted. I mean, you're paying the normal sort of amounts of points for heavy infantry. You're getting the Mimetism -3. That's decent. But it just seems like an average unit, or maybe even an above average unit in a meta where you kind of need to take, you know, the most broken, busted things you can to have a chance. So not amazing. And Orphans of the Observance looks like, you know, kind of a specialist option here. Again, does seem like a little bit expensive for that, but not 100% sure. Haven't really had the time to properly check them out. So there's that. Let's have a quick look at the O12 stuff. I think the big thing to write home about, I mean, we know what the robots do. We've had time to analyze that. Seku droids, I feel like maybe they're quite like an expensive flash bot, really. They've got Mimetism -3, but you've got 2 wounds, so reactively they seem reasonably good. They're not specialists. I can't see them doing any attacking, given that they've only got ADHL plus the flash pulse. But in the reactive turn, they'd make quite a good defender. It's just that when you're taking defensive pieces, you want them to be cheap, so they're cheerleaders as well. So I still probably prefer the flash bots for that role. But not terrible. I mean, Structure 2, that's a big deal. Remote presence, that means they're very tough. So you're always threatening that critical ARO with the adhesive launch of the Arclight Canon. And if you've got an engineer nearby, if you're playing a very defensive list, these actually could be really, really good. The Sarco is the main thing here, which has made sort of Star Martyr a little bit more viable. This unit definitely is decent because you're getting effectively 2 structure points for the low 20s kind of thing, and that's some real utility there. And they've got some good stats. They come with Infiltration and Mimetism and Climbing Plus and the Specialist, so that's where you get all of the things rolled in together. It doesn't look like they have the hackable characteristic over here, unless I'm mistaken. So this just seems like a really good buff for Star Martyr, which they needed. It's good for you to have at least something in your sectorial, which is a bit overpowered. I'd prefer Infinity to be a game where, you know, you've got lots of viable options that are equally as good, but at least if we're gonna, you know, just make a single thing in your faction really strong, you may as well give it to a faction that really needs it. So it's good for Star Martyr to have this. If the Psycho just got thrown into Cosmoflot or Nomads, it'd be a waste, right? So there we have it, guys. There is a new Army Builder update out. You know, generally, a lot of it makes sense, but it's just so surprising when we see one thing which is completely ridiculous and dumb, and a whole lot of other things which desperately need to be changed that aren't changed. I know I use this analogy all the time, but it's like if you take your car down to the mechanic because it needs new brake pads and the seatbelts are a bit frayed and they need replacement, and the mechanic just gets out a hammer and bashes in your windscreen and gives it back to you. You know, they haven't fixed the things that you needed fixed, and they've added a new problem in there, and that's your car basically. So that's Corvus Belli. You know, that's the hobby we've got. That's the game we've got. Infinity is still a very playable game. You know, we just went through the IGL tournament, which I'll be doing a video about in a few days. So look out for that. And in the meantime, enjoy your new Bulleteers, Panoceanic players. Enjoy.